Hello. Recently, someone asked me about my hearing loss journey. So this is when you have like anything degrading, like a mental degradation, so you could have dementia or Alzheimer's. It's something that degrades. So you have your hands in an A hand shape and it goes down. So a hearing loss. So I'm not considered deaf, but I am considered hard of hearing. I have a moderate to severe hearing loss, and so I have 2 hearing aids. And I know I've discussed this before, but I thought I would she asked me specifically, when did I know that I had a hearing loss? So I had stage 3, and this is not really probably you could say stage 3. I've seen that before, but it's so you could even spell stage 3. I've seen it this way. This is very English because this is a stage where you perform 3 cancer. And so I needed to have chemo, which I did not have. This is for like a port. But I did not have a port. I did have an IV, but this is usually chemo, and so that you could do chemotherapy if you wanted to do that. And I had radiation. Anyway, they told me that the risk for this chemo was a possible hearing loss. And so I read that and I just signed it going, it's not going to happen. Doesn't mean that it will happen. Well, I didn't really notice any hearing loss. But I did notice maybe some ringing in my ears, a little bit more than normal. I'm going, oh, okay, because it does affect your nerves. And you have your spine, and then you have your nervous system. Nerves. So it does affect my nerves. But still, I didn't notice. And then one day, not really. I thought people were talking lower. And so there were some residents, doctors, and because it's a doctor, but they're a resident, that I would stand closer to interpret. And I'm sure they're going, why are you standing so close to me? Because before I could stand like this, but I had to stand like really, and I thought, oh, they're just talking really low. They're new, they're residents, they're not confident in themselves. So I was standing, and I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I just need to hear what you're saying. And, but I still didn't notice that I had a hearing loss. And then one day I was interpreting for, a teenager that had a cochlear, and he was doing speech therapy. And I was sitting right next to the speech pathologist. And literally our legs touched because the room was kind of small. And I didn't see what she was showing, but I would listen to her, which is the norm. And so she would make a sound, or shh, or whatever. She would make these different sounds, and I would, sign it, spell it the way that I heard it. And then I noticed that the teenager, the patient, was saying something different, and she would go, good, I'm going, and I thought, what? And that was happening again and again. And then so one time I looked to see what that picture was showing, and I'm going, he was right, I was wrong. And that continued to happen, and that's when I started to notice that I was not hearing everything clearly, and sometimes I would miss a word, and I just thought it was them. It was maybe a soft sound, and it probably was a soft sound, but I wasn't noticing that I had a hearing loss. Well, I continued my chemo, and when I went to the doctor, I told them, they go, have you noticed any? And they listed, and I said, yes, a hearing loss. They go, why didn't you tell us we would stop the chemo? And I told them that I would prefer to lose my hearing as opposed for the tumor to continue to grow or to stay. And I wanted the cancer to go away. But I left that appointment and I was in my car and I just started to cry. And I'm going, I can't hear. You know, I'm losing my hearing. Am I going to be able to work? Because as an interpreter, I need to hear. And will I continue to lose my hearing? And so I just cried because I didn't know what was going to be going on. So because I am friends with audiologists, I asked them and they said to come in for a hearing evaluation after my chemo was finished. So I did that, and the ringing was loud, and I didn't even really notice that this ear had a different tone than this ear until I had a hearing evaluation. So that was interesting. I thought that she was pushing the button, and I would raise my hand, and she goes, "Do you have ringing in your ears?" And I go, "Yeah." I mean, when she said ringing, it's like I'm not hearing. But I said it's a tone. She says, "Yeah, that's ringing in your ears." I go, "Oh, okay." And I go, "Yes." And she goes, "Because I'm not pushing any button." I go, "Oh." And then when we covered up this ear, the tone sounded different. I go, "Wow." I mean, that was the first time I had realized, you know, what a deaf or a hard of hearing person, you know, goes through, goes through. And so after the hearing evaluation, then they decided on, you know, the hearing aids and what I needed. And I got them, and they're expensive, and I had insurance. But if you go to TWC, I think that's still Texas Workforce Commission, if you're working, they will help pay for that. It depends on how much money that you make. And so mine were more, they were cheaper than the insurance coverage. So I went through that way. But I still had that tone. It was pretty loud. And I got the hearing aids, and she had it, you know, not really, you know, loud. So my, you know, the nerves could get accustomed to that hearing aid. And it did hurt. I knew where my cochlea was, right here and right here, because that would hurt with the hearing aids. So as time went on, though, that ringing in my ears lowered, and I really barely even notice it or even hear it. And you know, the headaches got less, and then I went in and so every year I needed a hearing test to see if my hearing loss continued. And I'm happy to say that it has stayed the same. You can say this, a standardized, or stayed the same. You could do that one. It has not worsened ever since that first hearing evaluation. So even though the chemo is permanently damaged the nerves, my hearing loss has not gotten worse. So I'm happy about that. So, but I went in every year for 5 years. They said the first 5 years, if it's going to worsen, it happens during that time. So I would go every year. And so finally they're saying, and I told them, I said, you know, I said the reason I wanted to have a hearing test again, not only am I supposed to, but because the hearing aids, that I still can't hear everything. And so she said, because they're turned down low, they've never turned them up again, because I had gotten accustomed to the hearing aids. They needed to kind of turn up the sound. And then so they did that, and I was like, oh, yay, I can hear. But the hearing aids make things more loud. I mean, everything is loud. Because before, like the AC vent in your house, you may not hear or notice or various things. And now I hear paper, and it's like, is paper really that loud? I said, before, I don't remember paper being that loud, or the AC when it comes on, it's like, it's really loud, and you're going, what is that? So now I understand more about my patients or my clients, consumers, customers, you can do that sign. I understand their perspective a little bit better. So I'm not considered deaf. I am considered hard of hearing, and I have 2 hearing aids. And so that's really my deaf journey, so to speak. It's not really deafness, but it's my hearing loss journey. And other people, they may lose their hearing for different reasons. It can be because of, and it usually is nerve damage, right? And if they listen to really loud music or just various things, it can cause that hearing loss. So it's normal, especially when you get older. So I just thought I would give you this short video of my journey. And so discuss it with your friends. Deaf people do not have a problem discussing about their hearing loss at all. They just don't. It's just part of who they are. And so really I think they don't mind telling their story. Some people want to tell their story. So anyway, so don't be afraid to ask them about that. And if they were born deaf, they don't really have a story except how they realized or understood that other people can hear and other people can't. So don't be afraid to ask them about their journey with deafness or hard of hearing. So enjoy, and I will see you later. Bye.